Welcome back. Welcome to another recording, transmission, podcast, audio, whatever you want to call it. We've been away for a little while, I think. The frequency of these recordings has diminished somewhat, but that's okay. There is no hurry. This is VNM, and I am M.
And I'm V.
And we're very happy that your ears are listening to our voices. But if your brain could listen too, that would be nice.
Well, it depends what we're saying, really, I suppose.
Right. So, do you want to say anything then?
You start this time.
Okay. I made a mistake.
Em always does that to me.
Oh, I always like to let the ladies go first. It's just a gentlemanly thing to do. So I made a mistake last time of trying to write down topics and then try and do each one, and I think this caused me a little bit of stress, unnecessary stress. And I thought it wasn't going to come out very well, but it came out all right in the end. But I was still worried about it, so this time I'm just going to start with one thing, which is what's happening with M, I guess. What's happening with M is that M has found a means of expressing himself a bit more than he had previously, which is through Facebook. And I mentioned this on the last recording that I was going to join a few groups, and I think I talked about what happened. I can't really remember. In the process of doing this, I've been acquiring new Facebook friends, basically people who I wanted to have private messages with. I would add as friends and then send them a private message suggesting that we discuss whatever the thing that I happen to get the feeling that they might be interested in discussing from the group. And this group is a spiritual group. I've chosen spiritual groups to join. There's one group in particular that seems to have a lot of activity on it, and so it's really, I suppose, really just one group, maybe two, that I'm actually active on. And I've been basically having some good conversations. Although what I found is that after the initial conversation flurry, nothing really else happens after that. So I don't know whether it's necessary to be friends. But I think you get a better communication if you are friends, because I think Facebook does something to your message somehow if you're not friends. If they've got the right settings set up on their account, they could just ignore you. But anyway, that's all technical bollocks. So that's what's been happening with M. Lots of expression, self-expression.
Anything else?
But it sounds like V has something in mind that she wants me to say.
Not really.
Not by the...
You're not going to elaborate on what you've already said or any further?
Do you want me to elaborate? And if so, how do you want me to elaborate?
No,
because there's so many pathways I could now go down. I've had all sorts of interesting conversations. I don't know what V has got in her mind right now.
Nothing in particular.
Right, okay.
Tumbleweeds.
Tumbleweeds? Yeah. You've got an expression which says you are thinking of something, though.
No. I was just wondering if it was my turn or...
Yes.
Okay, what have I been thinking about? I've been delving into the occult a bit more in certain ways. Figuring out, well, a few bits here and there, really. Something that's really come to my attention lately is language, which we have talked on before a bit, and various words that have come up. And I guess I'm talking about etymology, that's what's come up with me lately. M showed me a rather interesting YouTube video after I'd spent a couple of days prior to that really sort of thinking in more depth about the language that we use and what the words we use actually mean and where they come from and that. So I found that a bit mind-blowing, just this one particular video. And so that's where my focus has been lately, really. Quite an interesting one. I first was introduced to the idea of language posing a problem through conversations I'd had with M over the last few months, really. And how language, very often in terms of spirituality, we don't seem to have the right language somehow. And M took it upon himself to start making up words, which at first I thought was quite strange. I didn't really understand why. But recently, I think I've become more kind of enlightened as to why he would want to do such a thing. But as well as making up new words, I've been trying to understand and, build up my understanding, basically, of words that we already use and how the words and language can affect culture, basically. In fact,
It is culture.
it is culture.
Majority of it is language.
And this is something that, I was completely unaware of before. So it's new territory for me, and as I said, mind-blowing. So that's where my interests have been lately, my focus.
So, I mean, if you go back and think about what words are for, then I would say they're essentially, to start with, in their infancy, are signals. Certain words mean certain things, like scarper, or just really just basic signals. But then I think we can go a bit beyond that in terms of humanity, in the sense that after that that's something that we share with animals. But a little further on than that is the idea that words can be used to describe an experience. So, telling a story. And I think that's really, to me, how they should be used. But after that, it seems to me that there's a way words are used to not describe the story, not describe an experience, but describe knowledge, what you concluded from an experience, what you think. And then moving a bit further forward again, seems to me words would be used to label. Of course, all words are labels, but what I mean is the language became a way of control, a tool of control. You are a X. It's a spell. You are an X. Yeah, I've just made you an X by virtue of you telling you that. If you hear that enough, you think you're an X, whatever an X is. Yeah. So it then becomes a power struggle, and
basically, in terms of occult, can I back in?
Go ahead. I'd sort of
in terms of occult, I think so. The idea of the word occult simply means hidden knowledge, I'd say. But when you say the word occult to someone, they immediately think of something nasty, underhand.
Well, not everyone.
Most people sort of, just everyday kind of mentality is that it's something that's a bit kind of not quite right.
Yeah, but those people obviously haven't referenced an etymological dictionary.
No, but then I hadn't up until recently.
Yeah.
I kind of knew that the word occult meant hidden, but I still thought it had a negative connotation to it. But what I've learned lately is that the hidden knowledge itself of the occult is not negative. It's how someone uses that knowledge that can be negative. It's not always. In fact, in a lot of cases, it certainly isn't. It's very positive. It can be used in that way also. So then I started to look at other words that are quite mainstream, like spell or spelling and rites and stuff that you might think an occultist would be interested in, I suppose. I started to go down that route. And this got me thinking about other words that we use and meanings. Just various things I've come across lately, including that video, have opened up my eyes quite a lot. It's got me thinking about a lot of the terminology in everyday life that we kind of just take for granted. Phrases, sayings, that we all say, and yet none of us seem to be that conscious of what we're actually saying sometimes. And from that respect, I do feel like we do walk around asleep a little bit. Like,
When people use words, they use them the way they think they mean.
Yeah.
So in a sense, we're not asleep. People are just using words the way they think they mean.
Yeah, but that's not the truth, is it?
Well,
So
there is. I mean, you can look at a word and look at its etymology, but even etymology is not a complete.
no,
You
I
can
mean
only go back
obviously
so
it's
far.
yeah,
And even when you can, things may be missing. It's all kind of just conjecture. You can't. There's no real way of proving that one word comes from another word necessarily. You can
well, I
say
think
in
there is
probability.
a little bit. I mean, there's
know-
definitely evidence to suggest that a lot of our words come from Latin and Greek, for example.
Yeah. But what I'm talking about the proof, because it's a bit like history being a science, isn't it? You can't really prove anything. You can say, well, it's likely that X, Y, Z, A, B, C, but because we can't actually go back there, you can't actually prove it, and therefore people use words the way they think they mean, and therefore it's not necessarily a bad thing that someone's using a word in a way which is not respecting the etymology of the word. It just means
No,
that they
I'm
mean
not. I
something
don't mean
different.
it's a bad thing. I mean, not in that reason. Not for that reason. I don't think it's a bad thing, but for the reason that words and their meanings can get warped over time and used to control people is definitely wrong, I think.
Well, let's take an example then. How is a word used to control someone? I mean,
Occult.
by attaching a negative connotation
Yeah.
to the word.
Yeah.
Right. So by basically changing the meaning
Yeah.
of the word,
Yeah.
you can control. Yeah. So what this is something that one of the reasons I sort of begun to make up words was I could never find the right word, and sometimes I even made up words when I could find a word that was pretty similar to what I wanted, because I knew that at some point someone else was controlling the definition of that word, and I had no control over it whatsoever. I mean, if Google decides one day to turn around and change the definition of a word, I mean, they're going to have quite a lot of sway in the world. If they want to twist something,
Yeah.
they could do it.
Yeah. Another word is Christ. Have you heard of this one?
No, go on. I mean, even if I've heard of it, doesn't mean they have.
So, very loosely, Christ is surmountable to the fluid, the spinal fluid, basically. The word Christ, Christos, which means anointed oil or milk, I think, when traced back far enough, actually is talking about the spinal fluid.
So what's that got to do with Christ?
With the idea of finding Christ. And it kind of goes back to the Kundalini idea a little bit, doesn't it? Like, so that's your highest self. That's what you're looking for. You're trying to align everything.
So Christ has got nothing to do with cross?
No, apparently not. Which is interesting. It's not, I mean, the word was there before, and it had been used before to describe people of a certain high vibration, a higher state of consciousness, if you like. So that's something that I never have heard before, and I actually think there is some truth in that. The first time I heard of Christos as in, an enlightened one, was in classic civilization at A-level, actually, but I just didn't put the two and two together. So essentially what they're talking about is someone of the highest consciousness, that a human can have. That's what makes it holy.
So according to Etymology, Etymonline, which is the website I always use.
I think I looked at this.
It's a very good etymology website.
Yeah.
I say very good. How would I know? It's the one that keeps coming up for me. It means the anointed.
Yeah, the anointed.
Noun of use of verb to rub, anoint.
Yeah.
So what is anointing? Are we talking about massage here? Essential oils?
Yeah, that's basically what we're talking about, yeah.
But hang on, isn't this related to sacrifice?
No, the word Christ isn't, apparently. No.
I mean, basting a turkey, rubbing oil into it before you put it in the fire. No,
I don't think so. Good effort, but no.
Why do you anoint someone? Why do you rub them with oil? Oh, okay, I will.
But on my travels, I got it as far back as actually what they were saying was spinal fluid.
Yeah, that's just I'm not sure about that. But hang on, let's follow anoint. To smear or rub with oil, typically as part of a religious ceremony. To smear or rub something with any substance. Ceremonially confer divine or holy... go back to the original definition. So Jesus was rubbed with oil. I mean, sounds pretty cool. I'd quite like to be rubbed with oil. Does that make me Christ?
Apparently so.
I don't want to be rubbed with oil if I'm going to be burnt at the stake, though. Just as a way of actually ensuring that I burn properly.
Goose fat. Get a nice bit of crackling.
What kind of religious ceremony are we talking about here? Smear or rub with oil typically as part of a religious ceremony? I might etymology anoint then. How do I do that? Oh, it says underneath on the definition on Google, it says in smaller writing, it says high priests were anointed with oil. So there you go.
He's sometimes called the anointed one though, isn't he?
That makes him a high priest, does it?
Yeah. In earlier kind of belief systems, yeah. That's probably what he would have been called, I suppose. Yeah.
Look,
you see, I think basically in culture, a lot of time people feel that the name Christ is actually his name, and it's just not.
Well, okay, like if you think that, then what's Jesus then?
That's also a title apparently, and I did read that recently.
All right,
but I'm not sure what that title is.
I don't think.
But it's not actually a name.
I was never taught that Christ was a name.
No.
In my upbringing.
So what were you taught that it was, though?
I was taught Jesus was his name and Christ was his title. You know? It's like.
But did no one else go any further than that, though, with it?
I can't remember.
And explain why?
They might have done, but I can't remember.
Yeah. Because
I assume
that title is used prior to Christianity.
Well, of course. I mean, you can't just magic a title out of thin air, can you? It has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
Even if you have been anointed with oil and your real name is Jesus, yeah? You're not just going to invent a word to apply to yourself like Christ. That's got to have to come from somewhere.
And the closest thing, I think, is the Greek word Christos.
Well, that's what it was saying on etymology.
Yeah.
So, going back to being rubbed with oil, I quite like this idea of being rubbed with oil. And coconut oil is quite good as well, isn't it, Lee?
You don't need that much of it if you get a good one. Yeah. I can assure you.
Get a
good coconut oil, a mid-range price. And
find someone to rub it on you.
And you don't need much. A little goes a long way.
And you can have a lot of fun. I guess if you are being rubbed with oil, then, and perhaps oil is precious, you know, it's not just commonplace like it is now. Go down the supermarket and get some vegetable oil in a big bottle and just rub it on. Yeah. It's probably would have been more precious than it is now, don't you think?
This is a real ramble.
No, I like this. This is good. This is good quality stuff.
It's going to be editing hell.
No, it's not. No, it's not. This is perfect. We're on topic. We haven't moved off it.
No.
Right. So
sorry, this is just something that's fascinated me lately.
It's fascinating me now.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to keep talking about it. I want to go down this road.
Yeah.
Anointing with oil. So so oil is perhaps, expensive. Yeah. So if you're rubbed with it, then you're going to be someone important. Yeah. By virtue of the fact you've been rubbed with oil. And
I'm not really sure why that someone would rub someone else with oil. What does that mean? What purpose does that serve?
It's intimate, isn't it?
I really want to get to the root of what rubbing with oil symbolises, though. I think that's the key.
I don't know about symbolising, but let me just look at it from the person who's being rubbed with oil perspective.
Can you, get off of this perspective?
Why?
Soon.
No, I've got to see this through all the way to the end. Right, I'm going for it now, yeah? I'm being rubbed with oil. Right, what's in it for me? Yeah? 1, someone's taken some expensive stuff, yeah? And they're rubbing it on my body, which means I'm important. Ego, yeah? 2, it feels fucking great, yeah? I love being rubbed with oil. I can't get enough being rubbed with oil. If someone said to me, do you want to be rubbed with oil? I will say yes. Yeah? It feels amazing. 3, there could be a sexual element to it. Let's not discount that.
No.
Right? We're talking about, religion and sex, you know?
Well, basically, there is a huge sexual element to religion that people don't really talk about. Again, that's hidden as well. and people miss this. There's huge amounts of sexual connotations to things. And that's always been the case with any kind of belief system, actually. Sex plays a huge role in these things.
So that's as far as I'm going to take it. Now let's look at it from the other perspective. The person rubbing the oil on. Yeah? Why would they do it?
Because they feel maybe that the person they're doing it to is important.
Well, not only do I like being touched, but I also like touching. I like applying oil to V. Coconut oil. It gives me something as well as her. I'm a very tactile person, so I get just as much out of it as receiving it, I think. And also, if you rub oil into someone, the chances are they're going to rub oil into you afterwards, so maybe it's a mutual thing, possibly. Looking at priests and priestess, perhaps, which then brings us back to the sexual element.
And it can go back even further than that and just be masculine and feminine.
That's what I said, isn't it?
You said priest and priestess.
Same thing, isn't it?
No.
Why not?
Because masculine and feminine isn't just about the physical body differences.
But neither is priest and priestess. They're spiritual, aren't they?
Yes, but one describes a male and one describes a female.
So does masculine and feminine?
No, it doesn't.
Go on.
No, because in ancient wisdom, masculine and feminine is something that we all have both sides of in our character, you see. This is gender, and the feminine element used to be more prevalent when it came to spirituality in the past. It wasn't until more recent times where the kind of patron deity came forward more, i.e. in some of the major religions, that the masculine energy took hold and the feminine was pushed aside somewhat. But ultimately I think what any ancient spirituality says is that we all contain both sides of that. It's just we live in an age at the moment where it's a more masculine energy that's brought forward, basically. And the feminine is seen as more, not irrelevant, but less important. So I'm not just talking about male and female when it comes to physicality. I'm talking about the actual spiritual way that masculine and feminine is used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the
which
priests
resides in
themselves,
everyone.
But the priests and priestesses themselves are a symbol. They are a walking, talking symbol.
No, they're not.
I don't know, what are you trying to say? That we're talking about eunuchs? That we're talking about...
Well, there is a school of thought that suggests that, basically, the earth could not survive unless there was a masculine and a feminine aspect. So, essentially, yeah, I think we probably are talking about some kind of hermaphrodite type of spirituality, mentality. Yeah, essentially. In nature, both is needed.
Yes, so you have a priest and a priestess. I don't see the problem.
You wouldn't call a male practitioner a priestess, would you?
No.
No.
And I wouldn't call a female practitioner a priest.
But you would in the more up-to-date religions, because they're still called priests.
I'm casting my mind.
And they're still called father. I'll have you know, a female clergy is actually called father still, which is interesting. That's the title they're given when they get to that stage. The feminine aspect is actually pushed aside again.
Okay, but I'm trying to imagine back to a time prior to that.
What's your point then?
My point, I think I've already made my point. But you're right. I think I've just made my point. I think I've talked about, the importance aspect works both ways. The sensual aspect works both ways, and the sexual aspect works both ways. So therefore, who, if Jesus Christ is Jesus Christ, and who's the female? I hate this question, but I can't stop myself asking it.
There's only one name that pops to mind, but
The Da Vinci Code.
Yeah. Dan Brown.
Yeah, that's the name that pops to my mind.
Mary Magdalene, shall I just say it? There she is.
Well,
And actually, you could argue that Mary is the feminine aspect as well.
I don't want to go down this route because I
But-
think it's bollocks.
Yeah, this is... see, what that sort of says to me is that it is still there, but it's kind of a lesser thing, if you like.
Well, sex has been taken out of religion, hasn't it?
No, not at all. Not in any way, shape or form. No.
Priests in some religions are celibate. Buddhist monks and nuns are celibate.
No, but the Buddhists do that for a particular reason, because they consider sex to be a hindrance.
Yeah, well, the priests do it for a reason too.
Yes, but most of them aren't celibate, are they?
Look, it depends on your Christianity brand, yeah? But in Catholicism, they are celibate.
No, they just don't shag women.
Let's not go there. I'm not
Yeah,
going there.
let's not go there.
I'm not
right?
going there. Let's stay on topic here.
No.
Because I think we had a point with an anointing, yeah? I still haven't got to the bottom of it. I mean, I've said a few things, but I haven't got to the bottom. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So, are we priests and priestesses then? Because we do sex magic and we rub oil into each other.
Well, I don't really know what a priest or priestess is, apart from just a title to suggest that someone is quite well versed on certain things. That's the sort of pagan view of it, is someone who's a wise, kind of has done a lot of stuff, who knows what that particular craft is about. That makes them a priest or a priestess. They have to take certain rites of passage to do that, I think. Because you can be a solitary, which we are, really, because we're not part of any group or...
I am. It's official. Facebook has me on a database as being part of a group.
Well, I am as well, but that doesn't make me a priestess, I'm sure.
I think I am a priest in that group.
No, he just talks a lot on there.
I don't. Not as much as... Well, he's just as much as anyone else.
No, I don't really consider myself to be a priestess.
But we're nearly there.
Because I don't really feel that I need to give myself a title that suggests that I know better than anyone else when I don't.
Why are we making this recording then?
Because I'm interested in exploring. I would honestly say with hand on heart that I don't know jack shit, really. And it's all just my speculation of things. And it could be right and it could be wrong, but I'm certainly not sitting here pretending that I know a lot of stuff.
But the nature of a story, yeah.
It's exploration.
Going back to words and how we use words and how storytelling is, I think, quite basic to communication. The nature of a story is that you give yourself over to the storyteller, at least for as long as the story lasts. So the length of, if whoever's listening, if anyone is listening to this, has in fact given themselves over to our line of thought, and therefore in their mind at present, but perhaps not indefinitely, we are at least elevated.
Well, that shouldn't be the case.
Well, that's how it is. That's how it is when you consume any information, you know. You read something.
Yeah, but I'd like to think that
suspend your
anyone who
disbelief.
wants to listen to this ramble would have the fortitude of mind to think, okay, I will have an open mind
Yes.
and listen to people,
Yes.
but I'm not going to take it as gospel. I'm not going to be a follower. I'm going to look at it with a critical mind
Yes.
who's able to think for myself.
Yes.
I kind of would ask anyone of that.
Yes, and I would too. But what I'm saying is, for the moment, right here, right now, they're listening.
I don't agree. I don't agree with that at all. That's rubbish. That is absolute nonsense, and that's your ego that's talking, because you like to think that you know better than anyone else.
It doesn't mean I know better than you, the listener. It means that I'm talking now, and therefore you have to be listening.
No, they don't. They could just switch it off, and they probably would, listening
If they
to
had
this.
switched it off, they wouldn't hear me say that phrase.
And
And if they didn't hear me say that phrase, then it's not there as far as they're concerned, and there's no issue. If you heard me say that phrase just then you're listening. It's simple communication.
yes, but that doesn't put you above them
No.
in any way, just because you happen to be the one that's talking.
I think if you...
That is ego.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. And this is exactly what we need to get away from in culture.
It's not ego.
It is.
It's,
by the way,
communication. To listen to someone, you have to turn yourself off and become a receiver. Yeah?
Yes, but that doesn't... The receiver part doesn't mean you're below the one that's talking.
No, it doesn't mean below. I never said below. But what effectively is a priest if it's not someone who stands up in front of people and talks? That's what I see as a priest. That's what I grew up with as a priest. The guy would stand up, go to the front and talk loudly, and everyone would listen to him. That's a priest, someone who talks.
Yes,
yeah?
and that is another reason why I don't want to be called a priest or a priestess. That's exactly what I was saying. Because it immediately puts you in a mindset that you are in authority to other people. And that's complete bollocks as far as I'm concerned. And anyone who actually... I've always felt this when it comes to kind of the earth-based religions that I was interested in. Anytime someone said they were a priest or a priestess, I immediately kind of had my spidey senses going on, thinking, okay, what's this about?
Yeah.
They don't really know any more than me. This is bollocks, because no one knows any more than anyone else. Yeah. Fact. That is about the only thing that is ultimately true in any of this. It's all just opinion and perception and perspective of things. That's it.
Yeah.
So that is why I would never ever say that I am a priestess.
No, I'm not asking you to say it.
No.
No, I'm not saying it either, because the formalisation...
And I don't think anyone else should either.
The formalisation of it has a feedback. It feeds back into the ego.
Yeah, it does.
To make yourself think that you're better than other people.
Like those priests that you grew up with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't deny that. But my point is, still, that if you choose to describe this state of someone talking versus someone listening to them, which happens all the time, then the person who's talking is currently in control.
Yes, but they have to then let go of that and let the other person talk as well.
Indeed. That's true.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good communication.
Yeah.
Not just someone talking at the front of a bunch of people. You know, I hope that this conversation, if anyone does listen to this, might spark off some kind of conversation in equal, you know, kind of an equal playing field that everyone can have their opinion on. Because I'm sure if anyone listens to this shit, then they're going to have an opinion on it.
Yes, but they won't necessarily talk back to us. This is the thing about the medium that we're using. It promotes the video above the response. You can type a few words in underneath, which are pretty small amount of information relative to the content of the big moving images and sounds at the top of the screen. Yeah. So actually, the medium that we're using is a parapet. You know, it's like the priest going up onto the pulpit in a church. Yeah. It's like that. I am now standing on a soapbox because I'm making a YouTube video. Period. Because that's what YouTube promotes. That is we're not sitting in the middle of a forum. Yeah. We're not sitting in a group, in a circle, talking to people. We're not doing that. We're making a thing that's like a soapbox. It's like a piece of art you put on the wall. The artist is communicating with you, but in order for you to communicate back to the artist, you have to find him first. You have to know that they're even listening to you, even if you send them a message. They might just press delete. Do you know what I mean? And so art, by its very nature, is this putting something up idea and then it being consumed. There's a creation, there's a creator and a consumer in the relationship. That's what art is. It's not a conversation like we're having with each other now.
I do think there seems to be this innate need for looking up, having, sadly, someone else tell you what to do a little bit.
It's part of growing up.
Yeah. I guess you could say that comes essentially from the being, you know, born into a family with parents where there's immediately a hierarchical structure in place. Albeit a loving one, but it's still there. There's still someone above you. So it's innately part of our psyche, I think. And that carries on throughout life. You know, you go to school, you have teachers. You go to work, you have a boss. Blah, blah, blah.
You could say that people of our age, in times gone by, would have been the elders. Because people didn't live as long as they do now. And therefore, perhaps it is now in our DNA to actually start projecting ourselves in this way.
Yeah.
Because we've learnt a lot of life lessons.
You could argue that it's actually in our DNA to look up to someone higher than us as well.
Yeah.
Which could explain a lot of the kind of God thing, really, in and of itself.
Yeah, religions.
Looking upwards.
Someone to give
interesting...
you some answers.
Yeah. Someone
Daddy.
guide you. Yeah, a daddy to hold your hand, basically.
Why? How is a vacuum cleaner made? How is a vacuum cleaner made? That's what my daughter asked me, R1. How is a vacuum cleaner made? I said,
yeah, Daddy.
I explained the principle, but what she wanted was to see a video of it being made. And I said, go to Mummy, because Mummy will show you a video of a vacuum cleaner being made from the internet.
How am I supposed to find that?
Type in vacuum cleaner being made on YouTube, and I'm sure you'll find it.
Okay. I can see me doing that within the next few days. Then.
Well, yeah, but she doesn't ask you for some reason. I don't know why.
She does ask me.
Well,
she does ask me quite a lot of things like that, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
But she hasn't mentioned the vacuum cleaner.
No, she didn't mention that one.
Well, you know how R1 feels about vacuum cleaners?
Yeah.
I think it's time that she knew the truth about Henry. Henry is a vacuum cleaner, by the way. Pneumatic International.
Yes.
That's the brand. And where does oil come from? What type of oil are we talking about with this anointing stuff?
I have no idea.
Because it could come from an animal. It could come from
my theory is that it's actually something within us that they're talking about. I really do think that might be the case.
I don't really want to be anointed with bodily fluids.
Yes, but bodily fluid. But this is another thing. This is another thing in kind of more ancient spirituality. Is that bodily fluid actually plays a huge role, especially sex magic. There you go, bodily fluid, and also, I don't mean to get graphic, but in certain areas of witchcraft, all sorts of bodily fluids are used, including menstrual blood and wee. And semen for sure, and all sorts of other things. Bodily fluid is something that actually does appear in certain aspects of ancient spirituality a lot, and a lot of emphasis is put on it, a lot of importance is put on it. There you go.
It did say anoint with oil on the definition, but I'm not sure how far we can extrapolate that as being true. Obviously, wee is not oil.
No, but I think oil is just... see, this is etymology again. I'm not sure that it is oil.
What are you saying, oil is not oil?
No, I'm saying that the original kind of version of anointing with oil might not have actually been oil at all. That's what I'm saying.
Well, let's just, out of interest, find out what oil is in terms of etymology.
Yeah. It might come up with something like milk, for example, which again is another sacred bodily fluid. Of course, because it's got to do with, fertility.
Okay, so it's from the word olive, apparently. Olive oil.
Really?
Yeah. So when we talk about oil, the word oil, you can see it's quite close to the word olive.
Yeah.
And that's the root of our word oil.
So what does it mean in sort of spiritual terms then? Anointing with oil?
Anointing with olive oil.
Exciting. It's good for your skin.
I'm sure it's a possibility, but then again, oil could be a translation thing as well.
Yeah.
So you never really know, I don't think. This is, the limitations of etymology, obviously, we're reaching it here.
Yeah. I think when it becomes speculation, that's when you need to sort of hang it up and say, okay, yeah.
Let's just say it is olive oil. Am I okay? Do I feel okay about being rubbed with olive oil? And I think the answer to that question is yes, still. I prefer coconut oil.
Smells better.
But olive oil would be fine. Now, olive oil is quite difficult to extract, I would say, from olives. You have to squash a fair few olives, but then maybe you don't need to. I don't know. If you found an olive tree, how many olives would you have to pick, and how long would it take before you could smother yourself in oil? I don't think it would take too long, to be honest.
I think it would take a fair while. Makes you appreciate the bottle of olive oil in the kitchen.
So what would you do to make olive oil? You'd get loads of olives and some stone.
I have no idea how they extract oil.
Just crush it up, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then take out the gooey bit and filter off all the chunky bits. It'd be whatever sort of dripped out the bottom. You know, you can imagine a stone utensil with a hole in the bottom being used to make oil. A small hole. And then it drips out. You crush it. It drips out. Little by
Why
little.
are we talking about this?
Because this is all to do with this Christ thing.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you get that on your hand and you smear it on like that. And you can't see that I'm doing that. You know, little by little, you become anointed.
What is anointed?
What is anointed? Why do you rub people with oil? Other than the fact it feels nice. There's a sexual component. Why
There is
olives?
in M's head anyway.
There's definitely a sexual component to being rubbed. Depends on what part of the body you're anointing.
Isn't it the head usually?
Could be.
Again. I think it's drying up a bit, isn't it?
We've run out of olive oil.
Yeah. I think we need to oil our brains.
Perhaps to make yourself slippery in the afterlife so that the devil couldn't catch you.
Oh, God.
Or perhaps it's a preservation technique. You know, or perhaps it's a basic sun balm. I don't know.
It could be. It could be that.
It would actually protect yourself from the sun's rays by rubbing oil on your
No, it wouldn't. No, it would probably fry you in the sun's rays if it was oil.
No.
Yes.
No, it would protect you from UV. It's the same principle as suntan.
Honey, if you rubbed yourself in olive oil and sat out in the sun, you'd fry yourself.
Right, I'm going to Google it.
It's that simple, yeah?
It's simple. I'm Googling it.
Yeah. It would be like a deep fat fried chip after about 30 minutes. Yeah.
Olive oil sun protection. Okay. AmazingOliveOil.com. Let's see what it says. Japanese scientists found that applying extra virgin olive oil as an after-sun lotion slows tumour growth in mice.
Yes, I get the point of using it as an after sun because it's a moisturiser. It moisturises the skin very well, like coconut oil does. But you couldn't use it to protect yourself from the sun's rays, honey. You'd kill yourself.
It does say at the
You'd
top
magnify
here,
it.
olive oil sun protection is actually a misleading phrase. Olive oil may not protect. It says may not.
Will not.
Against skin damage caused by the sun.
No, it would make it worse.
So this website's not supporting me.
No, most websites wouldn't. With
I have
that
to find at
predicament.
least one that does. Here we go. Natural oil sunscreens. Livingprettynaturally.com. Red raspberry seed oil. That's carrot oil. Wheat germ oil. Other oils with SPF 10 or less. Olive oil is between 2 and 8 SPF.
Yeah, that's basically
So
fuck all.
It's better than nothing then. It's better than nothing.
You would still fry yourself, love.
Well, it's better than nothing.
Be like a roast potato.
Well,
I dare you to go and try it.
what do you mean you dare me? What do you mean you dare me? You dare me to go onto somewhere really warm, like, I don't know, Greece or something, and just rub olive oil onto my body as a sunblock?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it wouldn't be as good as Factor 50, yeah? But I'm sure it would do something. It says here between 2 and 8. SPF, yeah? Skin protection factors between 2 and 8. It's on the list, it's just not great, yeah? Now the highest one they've got here is red raspberry seed oil, which is between 28 and 50 SPF.
That's very good. But then I guess if you got sunburn, you wouldn't be able to tell if you had that on your skin.
Well, the point is, any kind of sunscreen, whatever it is, will ultimately, you'll still burn, or if you'd stay out long enough.
Yeah.
It just slows it down. Alright, so maybe that's not the reason people were smeared with olive oil.
Sounds like some kind of embalming process to me.
Yeah.
Sounds like some kind of thing, that a ritual that would have been done to someone before they were buried.
Or burnt.
Or burnt. Or hung. Or whatever.
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
That's what popped into my head to begin with.
I was thinking more of something like mummification. Or an embalming process, yeah.
Basting.
Yeah. Before you chuck them on the fire.
Well, I don't know. one single word, i.e. Christ, has spawned this massive discussion, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
And may I just say that I highly recommend being rubbed with oil and also rubbing with oil. And if you haven't tried it yet, you should definitely do that. Even if you're just rubbing yourself with oil.
And on that note, we shall say goodbye.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.